Yes, I just came back from SME Week in Pucallpa. I am the chair of the SME working group at APEC. And as part of my role as the chair is that this year we developed a new 4-year strategic plan for the SME WG. And that plan has 5 key elements to it. The first 2 of those are very much related to domestic economy for small business. And so that is the first priority is a good entrepreneurial environment for SMEs. That is what we like to call the startup environment. And the second is the growth environment, helping small businesses grow, have access to finance, become more productive and innovative. Part of the role of SME WG at APEC is to share best practices and really understand what is the best, 21 APEC economies, what is the best way to achieve those goals and makes all the economies more efficient and delivering better programs and policies for small business. The next 3 priorities for the strategic plan are more cross-cutting priorities. So those are digitalization, internationalization, and green transformation. And so with those, it is really about how do SMEs, small businesses, fit into those plans. So one can take, for example, the idea of green transformation and think about, well, a small business is usually on a day-to-day basis is just trying to make it by. The owner might have a good idea for their business, but they're not specialists in green transformation. So what we really want to understand is what can we do to make all these small businesses, which make up 97% of all businesses within APEC, how do we make them green and make it easier for them to adapt to new technologies? At the same time, we also note that many small businesses are actually the leaders in green technology. They could be the ones coming up with the new technologies, the new products that will make everybody else more efficient and help to meet the green transformation. So SMEs are on both ends of the scale of being both the leaders and also where they might need assistance. So it is very much the same case for internationalization and digitization, and those are the 5 strategic areas that the group works on. I would also say that in addition to those 5 areas, we take an inclusive lens. What that means is that through all those 5 areas, we ask ourselves, are women-owned small businesses, are they treated fairly? Are they facing different challenges? Also, Indigenous-owned small businesses, small businesses in rural areas. And so that is our inclusive lens that we apply to all of these 5 priorities. And the end goal is really to, the small business working group is to be the champion of small business within APEC. So as you know, Canada and Peru have had a free trade agreement in place for 15 years. What we've seen is that trade has expanded greatly over those 15 years. Peru is now Canada's 2nd largest trade partner within South America. And that is quite an important feat because there are, of course, lots of economies within South America that are much larger. So only Brazil, which is many times larger than Peru, is number 1. So that is very impressive. We, of course, though, have to be very honest about how we look at the impact of a trade agreement. Part of my role is to not just talk about things, but to actually base them on fact and deep analysis. And what we find is that because of the Canada-Peru Free Trade Agreement, Canada-Peru trade is $545 million, that's Canadian dollars, larger in 2023 than it would have been without the agreement. So that is a very impressive impact of the agreement. And if we look at specific sectors that benefited the most or saw very big gains because of the agreement, we can note, for example, that the clothing sector saw a very large tariff reduction of 18 percentage points. And because of that, trade is now $43 million a year. We also see strawberries grew from almost nothing prior to the trade agreement. Peru now exports $17.6 million Canadian worth of strawberries to Canada in 2023. We also see gains for the fishing sector, for example. So there's lots of areas where sectors of the economy in Peru that have seen gains from the free trade agreement. We shouldn't underestimate being number 2 is pretty impressive. All the other economies, there's a number of economies that are much, much larger. And so we use the term punching above its weight. So Peru really punches above its weight in terms of its trade performance. But there, of course, is still things that could be done. So often people think that just because a trade agreement's in place, it automatically affects all trade. But companies actually have to make use of the trade agreement. This is called utilization. They have to fill out the right forms. They have to show that they qualify. There's a few additional steps. And so what we see is that the utilization is about 78%, which is pretty good. But it does mean that there's still room to improve. And so what can be done to help to improve is that we have trade promotion agencies on both sides, Canadian as well as Peru. And those trade promotion agencies can work with businesses, and particularly small businesses who might not know about the agreement or might not know how to make use of the agreement. They can, these trade promotion agencies can help the small businesses understand the agreement and get that up from the 78%. And what we note is, for example, there's a lot of clothing and textiles that Peru sends to Canada that is not yet making use of the agreement, which seems like an opportunity that could be taken advantage of.